Afternoon, peeps. Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing? Hopefully you guys are all doing well. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button. If you guys are new to the channel, don't forget as well to like and share the vids. All right, let's jump straight in and see what there is to talk about today. All right, let's start with this one. De La Hoya. It seems like Canelo is regressing in the ring in picking these opponents. There's almost two parts to this. Is Canelo regressing in the ring? And then the level of opponents Canelo's fighting. Let's talk about, is Canelo regressing? Is he going backwards? Is he still the Canelo he was 12 months ago? I'm not sure. That's the honest answer. This is a guy that's had a very, very long career. I mean, he started boxing when he was 15 professionally. So not as an amateur, professionally in Mexico. He's now, 32, 33. He's jumped up the weights. He's been fighting at the top table, the top tier for the last 7-8 years, maybe a bit longer. So I feel like naturally there's going to be an element of, can you stay at that level forever? No one can, right? You're going to regress. Some people can last a bit longer. Your Floyd Mayweathers, your Manny Pacquiao's, your Bernard Hopkins. Most will start sort of tipping the other way once you get into your 30s. It's just going to happen. So is Canelo maybe past his best? Is he regressing? Possibly. Can you judge that on his recent performances? Beat Golovkin easily. Struggled against Bivol, but I think we all can agree that Bivol's very, very special. So I don't know. I will say this though, he's not getting any better. Like, we're not going to see a better Canelo. That isn't going to happen. He's either going to stay the same or he's going to start to plateau. So I guess De La Hoya, has a point with that. With regards to the level of opponents he's picking, I mean, come on, stop it. Stop. Please, stop. John Ryder is a mandatory, and John Ryder's no scrub. Is John Ryder elite? No, he's not elite. I'm not going to pretend to you he is, but he's no scrub. But again, let's look at the opponents before that. Golovkin was before that, right? Unified middleweight champion. Before that was Dimitri Bivol, unbeaten champion at light heavyweight. So it's not like the opponents have got worse over the last few years. I mean, Bivol, I know it was a defeat, but Bivol's probably the best opponent he's faced since Golovkin too. Yeah, in fact, it is. It's better than Callum Smith, better than Billy Joe Saunders. So the level of opponents, if anything, have got one like that. If anything, haven't they? So I don't know, man. I think De La Hoya is just being De La Hoya. Obviously, he's still upset that he's not with Canelo. Prograde favours Taylor to beat Lopez. Style-wise, Tio is better, but Taylor's too big, too aggressive. Taylor certainly is too big. Like, honestly, I've seen Josh face to face now 2 or 3 times, and I'm still shocked at how he makes 140. Like, he's my height. He's my height, and he's not like my height and very skinny and lean and slim. He's actually a bit thick. I'd like to know what he walks around at. But yeah, so Josh is, I wouldn't say he's too big, because Teofimo is not exactly small either. I do think he's a bit too aggressive though for Teofimo. Like, Josh will fight on the front foot all the time throughout. And I don't know if Teofimo can keep up with that pace for 12 rounds. Does Teo have the power to make Josh not want to kind of fight that kind of pressure style that Josh fights in? Maybe. But I think you'd have to favour Josh Taylor over Teofimo Lopez, especially. But then again, I was about to say especially after the Sandor Martin performance. But then, I mean, Josh didn't look good against Jack Catterall. So maybe it's a pick 'em fight. But it is a fight that I am looking forward to seeing. Matchroom CEO responds to Joshua Buatsi's claims of inactivity. People still talking about this. Has Joshua Buatsi made the right decision in going to Sky and Boxer? Why did he turn down Dimitri Bivol? Who's he going to fight over there? Loads of people still talking about whether or not this was the right decision, especially now that Joshua Buatsi, in that press conference that was done, said something about he wants to fight somewhere where you don't have to download an app or something, and then DAZN the next day announced that they're going to be on Sky Channel 429, so you don't have to download it. But look, ultimately, I almost feel like we never know the full story of how these things play out, and ultimately there are smart people behind Joshua Buatsi. I don't know if it's still 258 management, but there are smart people that would have looked at what was on offer from both, looked at what Boxer are saying they can do for him in the next 2-3 years. Maybe they're saying, look, you're going to be our main guy, and maybe you weren't that at DAZN and Matchroom, and maybe that's part of the reason he's decided to go. Because if we're being brutally honest, Matchroom and DAZN, I mean, they're star guys and girls, Canelo, AJ, Katie Taylor, right? They're going to focus on those three because those three are the ones that, I guess, bring in the money, right? And then there's maybe a few others as well. Dimitri Bivol's obviously jumped the ladder in their thinking. Bam Rodriguez. So you do look at their stable of fighters and you wonder, okay, where is Josh in that? Like how much are they thinking about, okay, we need to look at what Josh is doing? Where over at Boxer, I'm guessing Joshua Buatsi will be quite high in their thinking in terms of, okay, we've got a star here that we need to push. So maybe that came into the thinking as well. And then money. A lot of all of this comes down to money. So all that talk about Joshua saying that, you know, visibility all comes down to pounds and pence. And right now it does look like Boxer are really paying big money. There's a good reason that Ben Whittaker decided to go there. There's a good reason Lawrence Okoli went over there. They're paying good money. So that could be what it is. With regards to whether or not Josh will get the fights he wants on Boxer as opposed to what he maybe could have got on DAZN, I still think that's where it doesn't make sense to me, because I do look at what DAZN potentially could give him, right? There's fights over there. Gilberto Ramirez is over there. He fights Rosado. We'll talk about that fight in a minute. Bivol, we know, is over there as well. So there are fights over there which make sense. Like if he was going to fight Gilberto Ramirez next, you're like, okay, cool, that's a good fight. And then potentially fight Bivol, like, okay, cool. Well, you look at that over there, and this is Boxer I'm talking, and Callum Smith, by the way, over there as well. And you look over there with boxing, like, okay, Dan Aziz is there, and that's a good domestic fight, right? Good fight. But then you kind of scratch your heads like, okay, what next? What's out there? Yeah, okay, you can put yourself in a mandatory position, maybe, but that seems quite far away as well. I know he's ranked quite high in all the governing bodies, so maybe it's 1 or 2 shots away, and then he fights for a world title. But it did seem as though he was being offered the Dimitri Bivol fight now. In fact, he was. I spoke to Frank Smith about this. He was offered. Obviously, Buatsi didn't want or like the terms, the contract being offered in terms of, okay, if you fight Bivol, we're going to lock you in for a couple more fights. And I kind of get that. It isn't what the UFC do, where they lock you into 8 fights, right? Or 6 fights. It seemed to be only a couple. But look, Joshua Buatsi's made the decision. He's a very, very smart guy. And hopefully it's the right one. Hopefully he gets everything he wants with Boxer. He's coming out, May 6th, I think he fights again, which is the same day as Canelo. I just hope that he doesn't look back at this in a couple of years' time and think, shit, missed an opportunity there. Because I think the Bivol fight would have been a fun one. You would have to have favoured Bivol just because of the work Bivol's done. But I think Buatsi would have given him some work. And then you stay there, don't you? You stay in amongst the top level fighters, and you have other fights. Joe Smith, Marcus Brown, you have other ones. But look, the decision's been made, and good luck to Buatsi, because I'm a big fan of his, and I just want him now to push on, and let's see what he can do by the end of the year. Let's see if Boxer can secure him that big fight he wants. There is still, by the way, the opportunity of a yard fight. We saw Boxer and BT Sports get together and do Joe Joyce versus Joseph Parker. So if the money's right and everyone can eat, I think that fight will happen. But yeah, I'm surprised by it. I will say that. But again, we know very, very little about how these deals come about and what money, and like I almost feel like we know nothing. We make it up as we go along. We like sometimes they must watch these videos of us speculating and sort of saying things that are supposedly fact and in stone and just laugh. Like they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And I claim to not know what the fuck I'm talking about sometimes with this stuff. So who knows, man? Who knows? Good luck to all of them. Guys, this, by the way, it's going to be my last video for about a week. As you're watching this, I'm actually up in Newcastle, getting ready for, or making my way up to Newcastle. I don't know when you're going to watch this. Getting ready for the next gen card. And then from there, I fly out from Newcastle to the Dominican Republic. My friend's getting married. And I'm back on the 26th or 27th. Obviously, I film with my iPhone. I will be taking my phone, obviously, out there with me. So if something crazy happens, then we are going to be filming out in the Dominican Republic. But yeah, it's probably likely that you won't see me again for about a week. Hopefully the absence makes the heart grow fonder and you miss my videos. All right, what else have we got? Let's crack on here. Joe Joyce could see a war with Zhang. Happy that Takam beat Yoka. Do wonder what next for Yoka. I said, didn't I, that I think he should maybe fight outside of France. He's almost that French poster boy. I think that brings its own pressure. You speak to these fighters about fighting at home. It's funny because a lot of these fighters want the home support, but then that equates to a lot of pressure, a huge amount of pressure. Josh Warrington always speaks to me about this. So maybe, I don't know, maybe he fights away. Maybe he fights in the States. Maybe he fights in the UK. As for the Joe Joyce war with Zhang, yeah, it will be a war. It'll be a war for a few rounds. By the way, Zhang can take a lick, you know, and Zhang can lick. Zhang can hit hard. So, yeah, I think Joe Joyce's chin's going to be tested a lot in this fight as well. Ben Whittaker to return from injury on May 6th boxer card. That, I don't know, look, it seems very unlikely that Ben Whittaker will fight Buatsi anytime soon, but look, they're in the same division. That could happen. I mean, Ben Whittaker said he can make 168, but he likes 175. That could happen. We'll see. We'll see how that one plays out. Quite a few injuries, it feels like, for Ben since he has turned pro. He seems to be picking up them quite a lot. Face-off here for Ramirez versus Rosado. Look, Rosado's obviously put on a lot of size, but I'm looking at the size difference just in the face-offs. And look, that doesn't always mean anything, right? But there's so much more to this than just the size difference. I know Ramirez is coming off the loss to Bivol, but he's fresh. It's his only defeat. He's fresh. He hasn't been in any wars. Rosado, I mean, it's war after war after war, isn't it? Don't like it. Don't like this fight at all. I mean, I'm a big fan of Gabe. You know, this is a guy that this is the definition. You know, when fighters say, "I will fight anyone," he will fight anyone. Like some people say that, and it's like, "Oh, okay, sure," tongue in cheek. He actually will do it. He's living proof he will do it. And what I like about him is how strong mentally he is. Like a defeat doesn't derail him. And maybe it's because, you know, there was no promise for him when turning pro. Like no one was looking at him like, oh, this is the future of boxing. This is a guy that's just done it the hard way. Rosado only had a handful of amateur fights as well, by the way. So this is a guy that came in onto the boxing scene, no push. So when he did get beaten, it wasn't like it was almost expected. And I think in his head it was expected, so he knew how to deal with it very, very quickly. So all the losses he's faced, they've not affected him like they would a prospect coming through or someone that's highly touted. It hasn't affected him at all. But that being said, this is a bridge and a step too far. He's too small for 175. This is a guy that's fought at 154. This is a guy that for me is really a 160 guy. I mean, he will take the 168 fights because they're big fights. He's never going to turn it down. But this is a guy that is 160 pounds fighting a guy that, I will say this again, when he lost to Bivol, Chris Mannix jumped in the ring and said, "Is your next fight at cruiserweight?" And he was like, "Oh, we'll see." So we basically got a cruiserweight here versus a 160 guy. I know it ain't like that, but you know what I mean. But look, good luck to Rosado. Decent card, by the way, that Golden Boy have put on. But yeah, I can't see it, honestly. I'd be very, very shocked. Oscar Valdez to return on Haney Lomachenko card May 20th. Okay, let's see what Oscar Valdez can do. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I don't. It's weird. This is a guy that's a world champion, and I was going to say something like, I don't know if he's going to become that guy. He won a world title, so he kind of is that guy. But you know what I mean. I thought he was going to he just ran into very good fighters in Robson Conceição, the fight I thought he lost. Remember he had all the drug issues as well, and then Shakur Stevenson, who I think when it's all said and done in 20 years time we'll be talking about as an all-time great. I think he's that special. So maybe Valdez is good. Maybe it's just a case of he's run into a couple of guys that are very, very good. By the way, we're filming this Friday, just gone lunchtime. We still have no announcement of Fury versus Usyk. Like, it's not been announced, guys. Like, I know I saw a picture the other day of Sugar Hill Stewart with Tyson Fury, and it was like, oh, the team's back. We have no announcement of this fight, and they're talking about, what are they talking about? April 29th. Scrap that, ain't happening. It's not happening April 29th. I'm not saying the fight's not happening. The fight's not happening April 29th. No, there's nothing, no announcement for a fight that's supposed to happen in 5 weeks' time. Yeah, no, ain't happening. This is crazy, this one. Adrien Broner signs agreement with Don King. Boy, I don't know. I guess Don's offered him silly money. Whether or not Don can get that money together, I guess he can. Daniel Dubois got paid decent money fighting Trevor Bryant, so I guess there is money from somewhere with Don King. I don't know where he gets that from nowadays because no one seems to tune into Don King fights, but this is just weird. It's weird. I do wonder if DAZN made an offer and the offer was just so low. It was like, no. And right now he's all about his money. The money's clearly run dry for him. It's clearly run dry. And it's a shame because this is a guy that, Broner could have been anything he wanted to be. And look, what is he, 3-4-8 world champion? So you've got to applaud him on that. I mean, hell of a career, but he could have been something special. Like when you're talking about fighters of certain generations, so it would have been, that Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather generation, which kind of then spilled into, some might say Andre Ward, Canelo, Golovkin, whatever. He should be here. Like we should be talking right now about the Broner era. It should be now. Like, oh, Broner's that guy, and almost a bit like where Floyd was picking who he's going to fight May, September. We should be doing that. I think we should have been doing that about Broner. I really do. I think, like, some people will say, oh no, and I get that. But imagine this was a Broner that just lived a life. Imagine he lived the life. So as talented as he was at 130 and 135, I believe it was. Yeah, it would have been. Imagine he just lived that life. So was that guy, but then said, you know what? No partying, no drinks, none of that stuff. We're just going to focus on this thing. Fucking hell, he would have been incredible. Incredible. But now look at him, signed with Don King. Crazy. Let's have a look. Anything else? I don't think so. Okay, Jean Pascal lost to this guy I've never heard of called Michael Effort. Effort. I mean, look, I remember Pascal fighting Carl Froch for the WBC super middleweight title, the vacant title. I mean, Pascal now 40. And still, don't get me wrong, looks in great shape, but come on, man. Like, there's nothing there. There was talk about Pascal versus Buatsi. I think there was an issue with regards to drug testing. But yeah, Pascal losing, surely that's like, let me have a quick look at his box record. How busy has Pascal been in the last sort of 4 or 5 years? I mean, credit to him, still going. Yeah, 40. Okay, so he had one fight in 2022 against Fang Long Meng. That's a good win, by the way. That's a very, very good win, by the way. I remember Meng beat Frank Buglioni in one of those Monaco shows. Badu Jack in 2019, so he had pretty much a 3-year hiatus. Beat Badu Jack, beat Marcus Brown, technical decision, that one I remember. Lost to Bivol. I mean, this is solid names, isn't it? Alderweireld, Sergei Kovalev, twice, those defeats. That was when he was fighting Pete Kovalev. Beat Bute, fought Bernard Hopkins, fought Chad Dawson. This is solid. Carl Froch, solid career. Solid career. Nothing to be ashamed of. 7 defeats, nothing to be ashamed of. Apart from, obviously, the failed drug test. But we will skip that one because that's what we do. Peace.